Welcome to Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Dan, I was just thinking about this before we came on the show today. Over the past couple of weeks, I know, I had a thought, right? Over the past couple of weeks, we've just been so hyped up with the draft. The emotions have been on high. And now, the dust has finally settled from it. We got a chance to do our shows last week just talking about the recap. Obviously, we had a chance to talk to Matt Money Smith. But I just realized, I feel like it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since I've opened the show asking you how you're doing.
Oh, I feel like
as if to say that I don't give a shit about you, but I do. So, honestly, truly, how are you?
Well, I'm glad that you do care. I hope. I think you have asked me. You're not giving yourself enough credit, but you're right. It's been a crazy whirlwind the last few weeks. You've had all things talk about free agency and then the draft, and then all of a sudden now it's all about the schedule release. We haven't really had a chance to think about our own emotions or make sure that our own mentals are all in check. But no, honestly, I'm doing pretty good. I'm amped. I am hyped for today and this episode. But before we get into any of that, Jake, my friend, how are you doing? I care about your feelings. Don't laugh at me.
So glad. I just like your delivery. It's your delivery above anything else that sometimes makes me laugh. So I can truly tell the emotion coming through on that sense. So I appreciate that. And at the same time, it also makes me laugh. I'm doing well. As you can tell, there is a new background behind me because the normal room that I do the podcast in is currently under mass construction right now. So what you're seeing now is the upstairs of the Hefner household.
Yeah, there's also new stuff around us, all over on the screen for those who are watching on YouTube.
Oh yeah, right or up there, up there.
Yep. So, Jake, we've got quite the show today. For folks who are tuning in for the first time, welcome to Chargers Unleashed. You can find us on Twitter at LAC_Unleashed. My friend Jake Hefner at Jake T. Hefner, myself at Chargers Homer. Find us on Instagram, on YouTube. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It takes 5 seconds. Go there now while you're watching or listening. But Jake, we are going to be talking about what is arguably one of my favorite times of the year. We get to know who we are playing for the entire 2021 season. And boy, is it a juggernaut of a schedule with some gems. I'm talking primetime. I'm talking Thursday, Monday, Sunday. First half of the season, last half, both are very intriguing. Let's get after it, Jake.
Let's do it. I'm stoked for this. So I always love this because we already knew who the opponents were going to be months and months ago. It was now coming all down to what the actual time frame and schedules that this was going to be, who was going to be backed up against who, when the bye was going to be, what type of strength of schedule this was going to be for the Chargers. And just off the top, so for reference, the Chargers are playing 5 playoff teams that made the playoffs in 2020. 4 of those teams are in the first 6 weeks right now. Number one, the first thing that jumps off is we get the sequel of Rashawn Slater versus Chase Young. About that? About that? I've been looking at this, even if you just take away the aspects of the player matchup. What I like about this, and Chargers fans should actually be encouraged, Brandon Staley got a very, very good look at Chase Young in the early part of last year. I believe it was in week 4 when the Rams played the Washington football team, ended up coming away with a win 30-10. You know what Chase Young's final stats were in that game?
Ooh.
2 tackles. 2 tackles.
That's it?
That was it. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be a repeat performance here because we're talking about the reigning rookie defensive player of the year from last year. Now you put another year under his belt, and now you have this. You can't no longer say underrated. Washington's game right now is all about defense. Their defense is legit, and now you're telling I don't want to say patchwork. I definitely want to say improved, but by no means gelled, new offensive line that literally has 3 new free agent starters and a rookie left tackle going up against one of the best defenses in the league. By no means is this going to be a cakewalk in the nation's capital.
No, folks do not. For the folks who are looking at this week 1 matchup and are thinking to themselves, "Ooh, that's a win." Be careful. You are underestimating how good this Washington football team's defensive line is. Of all of the folks on that team, that is the unit that scares me to death. Watching them go up against our revamped offensive line week 1, fresh out the gate, going up against arguably one of the best defensive line in all of football. That's going to be a tough one, Jake. That's going to be a tough one. Now, do we want to go through these and give win-loss predictions, or just want to go through kind of storylines for each of these?
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Either.
I know how exciting this is that we finally get to at least know what the schedule is going to look like, but we did win-loss predictions at the late part of the season, just before preseason started, I want to say, last year. Let's wait for that. Because everybody thinks right now that they're going to go 17-0. So
absolutely.
Let's wait and see until we get that far.
Okay, fair enough. Now, before we get into this, Jake, it was kind of interesting. I actually had a chance to go and look at tickets for purchasing if I wanted to bring family or friends with me to games, because those tickets were actually just on sale today for season ticket holders for $4.45, and everyone else, I think it goes live at 8 p.m. Week 2 matchup, we get to go up against the Dallas Cowboys. Home opener, first game for Chargers at home with fans. And let me just say, there isn't a chance in hell you're getting tickets to a Cowboys-Chargers game if you have not already purchased it. And it is currently 6:51 Pacific time. Every seat sold out.
What time did they go on sale?
4:45 Pacific time. I couldn't even get tickets for my parents, and I was on there at 4:55. Only things available were single seats in the nosebleeds.
You'd think that maybe people missed going to football games last year?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Just a thought.
The amount of fans that are going to be at these games is going to be absolutely insane. And for folks who are talking about, oh, I don't know, we're going to get sold out, all of opposing fans, I don't know, Jake. I really don't think that's the case. There are Chargers fans clamoring to see this team. Chargers hit the jackpot with the new coaching staff, hit the jackpot with Justin Herbert. At this point, hopefully, everybody's going to be healthy. I know we're used to kind of being shown out by opposing fans. I don't think that's happening here. I know I'm the optimist.
That's an understatement.
But
go on.
I will be shocked. Let me put it this way. The amount of opposing fans that have been at Chargers games previously, I think, is going to be much more than this go around. I would be shocked if it's what we saw back when it was at Jack Murphy, Qualcomm. Actually, it wasn't bad, Jack Murphy, Qualcomm, and then also, of course, when you were at the Hoag Performance Center in LA.
This is a perfect way to christen SoFi Stadium and bringing fans back, whether you're Chargers fans or you're Rams fans. But this game specifically, to bring in the Hollywood of Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys and all of the, following that goes along with them nationally as far as how big and well their team is covered. You bring the likes of Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott. You bring these guys to SoFi to christen a stadium that has not been able to have fans in it yet for a Chargers team that was hoping to have fans in it last year. And now you have a new coach, you have a new quarterback who put forth the best rookie season that has ever been documented in the NFL. There's just so many things here that just scream prime time and just the perfect way to open a new stadium with fans coming back through the door in this type of a way. Fans are going to be hyped. They're going to be jacked. And there are still a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans in California. So they're definitely going to show out. So, but yeah, Dan, to your point, I think this time around, with people getting deprived of football that they did in 2020, I think you're going to see a great turnout, not just of Cowboys fans, but of Chargers fans. I would hope I would hope that you get a lot of them showing out for this game. If you've missed football in 2020, which I believe everybody did, you're going to want to be at this game.
Yep. And again, Dak Prescott, now a very rich man, back from injury. The team's gotten a bunch of guys there on defense. I mean, that offense is not anything to joke about. That's going to be a fun one. That's going to be an experience, man. I cannot wait for that game.
Dallas is going to be an interesting matchup. I know we just talked about all the hype of the name of the Cowboys, but let's talk a little bit about the matchup.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Dallas went out and signed three free agents, all of them on defense. Their first 6 draft picks, all on defense. Think they have an issue with the defense? I think they put a big priority on defense. Just a guess.
I think they're trying to fix something.
Yeah, I say that they're trying to fix something. They know that their offense can put up points with the best of them. And when you have a healthy Dak Prescott, it's always going to be a challenge with that team. When they're on, they can be on. But defensively last year, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. And this is going to be a test for them with a lot of new faces on the defensive side of the ball in a week 2 matchup early on in the season, going up against the likes of Justin Herbert and this offense under the Brandon Staley lead. So, this is going to be an interesting one to watch. It should be a win. I know we're not counting wins and losses here. I'll say it should be a win. I would think that they'd want to get a win for that first game of having fans come into SoFi.
You would think. Jake, before we get into our first divisional opponent on the road, for those who are watching on YouTube, I'm noticing some swag on your chest.
Oh, yes.
I think it's fair to say now that this episode of Charges Unleashed is officially sponsored by our friends over at Manscaped. It looks great on you. Up on the top left of this YouTube, you can see sponsors up there. We'll be talking about them throughout the show. Go to manscaped.com. Use the code UNLEASHED. Save 20% and free shipping. They just came out with, Jake, the Lawnmower 4.0. Let me tell you, this thing is sleek. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I'm still waiting for mine to come in the mail. But I know you got it. So what, did you already use it?
I did not use it. It is currently charging, and it's got like this sweet light. It's got like a light that you can use in the dark for whenever you're wanting to do that, apparently. It's got a charging light. You can put it on lock for when you're traveling.
I mean, okay, so
it's being the guy, you know, in the past when there's been women who, like, you've heard the stories of they have their luggage that goes through, and all of a sudden, like, things start vibrating, and they're wondering, like, what the heck is going on? I mean, that probably happens for men too. And so Manscaped has kind of thought ahead and came out with a way to lock the razor from turning on mistakenly.
I want to know. This can't just be airport stories that they got feedback from.
I hope not.
Type of thing. Write the product summary or product survey and send it back to Manscaped and tell us what you thought. You can't tell me that this many stories of vibrating luggage in the airport is the reason why they decided to finally put a lock on this thing. There has to be something else. I don't believe it, but it's a nice function to have.
You can never be too safe. For listeners who are out there or viewers who are out there, if you have seen stories or heard stories of things vibrating in luggage, we need to know. We need to hear the stories. Leave us a comment, subscribe, and give us a review. Give us your story. We will play it. We will talk about it on the next episode if you give it to us. Now, Jake, moving on, first divisional opponent in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes, who just came off a fresh ass whooping against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Do you think there's a chance in
really it was against the defense?
The defense. Okay.
But go on.
Okay. I know we're not talking wins and losses here. This is going to be a big, big game. And arguably probably the biggest game to date for the Chargers this season, week 3. I think this is bigger than the opener, bigger than week 2. Both teams are going to be hyped and amped for this one. And Arrowhead, they're going to be packed full of Chiefs fans.
So I know I was talking about how difficult this 6-game stretch is going to be for the Chargers coming up to their week 7 bye. And it is. But look at who the Chiefs have right before they play the Chargers, because I actually sympathize with them on this one. They open the season against Cleveland at home.
Tough.
We saw what that game was like in the playoffs last year, albeit on a loss. Cleveland played their asses off, and they have retooled and reloaded for the 2021 season. So that game is going to be insane. Then you go on the road against Baltimore, a team that just hates losing to you. You don't think that they're going to be amped about that in week 2? And then you have to turn it around in week 3 and play a divisional opponent like the Chargers, who is just dying to get ahead of you in the division in the AFC West. This game is going to be so pivotal because let's just say, for argument's sake, the Chargers and the Chiefs could both be 2-0 at this point right here. I mean, this is going to be huge just moving forward, not just for the long term. And given that we have an extra game this season, first year having 17 games, but this is going to set the tone. This is going to set the pace for who's going to be able to dominate in the AFC. And who knows what the rest of the season is going to have after week 3. We don't know. But this has so many implications behind it for Justin Herbert, given the fact that really this is the team that he started against last year. And the rest was history as far as his rookie of the year season as a quarterback. But the Chiefs have done a lot of work on, just like the Chargers did, in revamping their offensive line. They still have some key defensive pieces. Of course, the Chiefs always end up with a really, really good draft. So Andy Reid is going to have that team ready to play. They're always just virtually unbeatable at Arrowhead. But if this is the matchup that we get for the next decade between Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, I'm all for it. I cannot wait to see these two go at it twice a year, every year.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I cannot wait for that game. But then afterwards, Jake, talking primetime against the Raiders.
The Raiders
at SoFi. That one is going to be amped. There's tickets going for a pretty penny for that right now.
Did you try getting tickets to that game? Did that one sell out?
I did not try getting tickets to that game. I will be shocked if that one is not sold out already. When I went and checked at whatever it was, 5:00, the Cowboys game was basically sold out. The Chiefs game later on in the year, which I was able to get some tickets for my family for, was there. The Vikings game was also getting booked. But all the primetime games, fat chance at this point. And man, legit, they are sold out. And this game is going to be a feast for Chargers fans. This is probably one of the most important games that Chargers fans have been waiting for. Get the Raiders at home at SoFi. And we're going to get it.
The Chargers and Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi get to go up against a Gus Bradley-led defense.
Casey Hayward.
And even a less familiar name that's come back around, Darius Philon from a couple years ago.
Good dig.
But I'll be interested to see what Gus Bradley does with this defense. If it's anything like the defense that he commanded last year, Raiders fans say a prayer.
Chargers.
That's all I'll say right now.
If there's ever any prop bets for that game, pound the over on all of them. Points, touchdowns, field goals, you name it. Hot dogs eaten by Dan, over.
Hey, I don't usually want anybody to fail, but for Gus Bradley and his coaching future, I just hope that he learned from the mistakes that he did do when he was with the Chargers. So if he comes out with a new attitude and a new defense, hey, it's going to surprise the hell out of me and surprise the hell out of a lot of other people. But that'll be interesting to see if he changes his defensive scheme and how Brandon Staley is going to attack it, given the fact that I think he's got a lot of inside voices and knowledge on how Gus Bradley runs his defense.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great game for Chargers fans, and Chargers cannot wait. Moving on to the next one, and Jake, for folks who are on YouTube right now, we are showing a picture of our one and only Derwin James going up against the Browns, which is our Week 5 matchup. Jake, I am so excited, side tangent, so excited for Derwin James to play football again. You forget how incredible this kid is. But even just today, I saw a little quick 10-second video of him intercepting a ball from someone, and the joy in his eyes, the smile that he had. I'm like, man, the world does not know what he's about to bring to them this year. Week 5 versus the Browns, the revamped, who may have had one of the best drafts of the entire NFL. I mean, absolute stud. Their defensive line is ridiculous. And on top of that, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And on top of that, Clowney, Garrett. I mean, good Lord. Their defensive secondary, they got guys from the Rams. I mean, they drafted unreal. That is going to be a tough game.
Yeah, to me, the Cleveland Browns parlayed their 2020 season, and they're going all in for this 2021. And this is not just going to be for the 2021 season. This will be beyond as well. The Cleveland Browns have finally arrived, folks. For those of you that have been waiting for them to arrive, they have arrived. They're going to be playing for their division as good as they did last year. They still didn't even win their division last year, and they looked like the best team in their division, which is just bizarre to say. You got the return of OBJ. You've got Anthony Schwartz now on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to bring a lot of speed. The two guys that you had mentioned, Dan, this is the matchup that I'm really going to be interested to see. We all know now how Brandon Staley loves to attack a quarterback through the defensive eye. So for the fact that he knows a lot about John Johnson and Troy Hill, that was in his secondary just a short year ago and now is in Cleveland. How is he going to prepare Justin Herbert for this matchup in Week 5? I think this is going to be the biggest storyline to see.
That's going to be a fun game to go to. I believe that one is away. That's home. That's home with the Browns. That's going to be a fun one. I'm actually going to be at the game, so I'll be taking pictures. When's the last time you've been excited to see a Browns game? And Jake, it's interesting because we talk about this team, the Browns, and they have so many good players. Is it kind of wild that Baker Mayfield may actually be the one that holds this team back? I think this team goes as far as Baker Mayfield takes them.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with that to a certain extent, though, because I think that Baker has grown by leaps and bounds as a leader. And I think you even saw it, after he got a lot of slack early in the season. I think he answered the bell. I think he answered the challenge that everybody was asking for him.
Agreed.
I think he finally became that. So, I get where you're going with this as far as him possibly being the weakest link. He'll go how they go. But on top of that, when you look at their playoff games and where they kind of stalled, they didn't run the ball as much. And with the rushing attack that they have, you'd expect that they would have done that. And I still think that should be their focal point to set up the pass this year. Again, you have a lot of new weapons. You got a return of a great electric player that is trying to get back to the form that he once was. If you can integrate all of that with Landry and now Schwartz, and now, you go back to your rushing attack and Chubb and Hunt, this is a bona fide electric offense that can put up good points. We've seen them do it a few times last year where they just have put an ass whipping on people. And now you add everything that they've done to this defense in their offseason. They're no joke. They're no joke. They're coming to play.
They are. Let's take a quick break, Jake. When we come back, we'll get to week 6. We get to go up against a friendly foe who we actually sacked in the playoffs for a victory. Hint, hint, wink, wink. When we come back on Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome back to Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. It is NFL Draft Release Day. 2021 season is now set in stone. We are going through week by week of every team that the Chargers are going up against in the 2021 season. Dan, before we get into this, those first 5 games, they got me a little bit parched.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I'm a little thirsty. Oh, Jake, what do you got?
So, as we've spoken about, top left-hand corner as well, a great sponsor to the show, Brewery X in Anaheim. Again, if you guys have not checked them out, please do. They supplied us with a ton of cold ones for the draft party.
That they did.
So many different choices to choose from. Again, my personal favorite is the Slap and Tickle IPA. Really enjoy this one. I highly recommend it. Guys, if you are a hazy IPA, if you're just a regular West Coast India Pale Ale, if you're into seltzers, they have it all. So by all means, get yourself down there if you haven't already. Go to Brewery X in Anaheim. Check them out. They are fantastic.
Agreed. I think they have like a jungle juice seltzer, Jake, that's like 10%.
That is it. There's a jungle juice one. There's a watermelon one. I mean, I think they have at least... I think there's about 5 or 6 different flavors, and then depending on how good of a day you want to have, you either have the option of a 5% one or a 10% one if you don't feel like leaving and just putting a sleeping bag underneath the table, whichever choice you'd like to have.
Nope. Check them out. You can get them at breweryx.com directly, or you can go to Bevmo, or most of your grocery stores will have them as well. Brewery X, check them out. Jake, week 6 at Baltimore.
God. Like I said, first 6 weeks are brutal. Just nasty. 4 playoff teams out of the 5 that made the playoffs in 2020. I mean, this is nuts. We all know the type of team that Baltimore is. And the one thing that everybody said was the biggest weakness of this team was their offensive weapons. I think by week 6, that whole talk is going to come to a screeching halt.
They went receivers.
You went receivers, and you got some good ones. The Ravens go out and with their first overall pick, they draft Rashad Bateman. And then just a couple rounds later, they end up taking Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State. You pair that now with Hollywood Brown, their rushing attack that they have. Oof.
That's going to be a tough game.
This is going to be a tough-fought defensive game. It's going to be a big challenge for the Chargers. And, of course, because Baltimore just always ends up having a good draft, they reloaded a lot of pieces on defense as well. Guys that we talked about on this show leading up to the draft that me personally that I wanted. So Baltimore is Baltimore. It's going to be a tough game. Like Cleveland, they're going to be playing for their division once again. So we're not talking wins and losses here, but damn, this is going to be, let's just say, thank God the playing stretch is going to end after this game and the Chargers get a break after this week, because these first 6 weeks are just nothing short of brutal. And if they come out of this, at I was going to try and be optimistic and say that they were going to come out of it 4-2, but you know what? I'll take 500. I'll take 3-3 after a stretch like this.
Oh yeah. And this is going to be a fun game because this is why we got a lot of our players specifically for these kinds of games. You think Derwin James for players like Lamar Jackson. You think of Kenneth Murray, Lamar Jackson. You think of a lot of the folks. We have Drew Tranquil, sideline. We've got, this is where a lot of our kind of star players have been picked specifically for games like this or games like Kansas City, where there are athletes on the offensive side. This is going to be one of those kind of show up or show out type of games. I can't wait. Jake, and then moving on, week 8. After the bye, week 7, we're totally going to need that. Team's going to hopefully be refreshed after a victory against Baltimore. Then we go to week 8. Back at SoFi, we get to play a hometown favorite. Not really. We get to play the New England Patriots. But a very different New England Patriots than we have seen since the 20 years of Tom Brady and Super Bowls.
Yep. Here's a bold prediction that I will say right now, and I think that this is fair to say. Not talking wins and losses here. Is Cam Newton the starter come this week against the Chargers?
Week 8? No.
You don't think he is?
Nope.
Even with these revamped weapons around him?
I don't know which podcast I heard this on, but I was listening to someone, and they actually brought up a really good point. They've got a lot of weapons, and they spent a ton of money in this offseason. But how many of them are stars?
Well, that was the beauty part about New England for the better part of two decades, is that you wouldn't necessarily have to be a star prior to your time in being New England. And then once you went to New England, all of a sudden you gained superpowers. Amazingly.
No. Your superpowers were Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They masked everything. You take half of that away, and arguably the half that went away won. So, points to him. No. There's no.
But that's just my point. Is it the scheme that is going to benefit Cam Newton? Is the additions of Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith going to benefit Cam Newton? I think they will.
Sure. I think it won't be as bad as last year. I'll give you that. But do I think they're going to be a juggernaut in the AFC? No. I think they'll be happy if they can get to 9-7. I think that would be a successful season for them. I'm sorry, 9-8.
Oh yes, because extra. So you have them getting one more loss than they had in 2020. You think that they can't surpass that? Or what did they finish? 7-9, or was it 9-7?
They were 7-9.
Okay, so you've got them 2 wins better than they were last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Their team got better. I don't think their team got that much better. They lost their best receiver. We'll see.
I'll tell you who scares me more than Jonnu Smith, more than Hunter Henry, than Cam Newton, than Bill Belichick, than any of the guys that they have coming back from the COVID list that opted out last year. If I see Gunnar Olszewski have another special teams day like he had last year, I didn't hate it considering that I called it, but I would hope to God that by this point in the season and having the whole offseason to make the special teams better, by all means, please, if you're going to do something right, don't allow Gunnar Olszewski to have a day like he had against the ass kicking that he put on you last year when the Chargers shut us out 45-0.
The silver lining was that you called that last year. For those who heard that,
I can't hate it.
No, for those who listened, Jake's bold prediction of that game was going to be, I think it was something like 3 touchdowns by Gunnar Olszewski. Like, it was literally, he called it. I'm like, this guy.
He was only 1 touchdown short. He had 2.
When I saw him run down the sidelines, I was like, damn it, Jake's not going to let this one go. He's not going to let this one go. Jake, halfway through the season, we're up to week 9. This is going to be an interesting one. This might be one of the more sneaky, fun matchups of the season. Going up against a Jalen Hurts-led Philadelphia Eagles team. I don't know what to think of this one. We haven't really seen much of that offense. We don't really necessarily know what they're going to look like. They got better in the offseason. They got better in the draft. That one's going to be a fun one. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a difficult one, but I think it's going to be an entertaining game in terms of I don't think we have any clue what that game is going to look like right now.
I mean, no, right now you can't say it. I mean, it's the worst term that anybody can use at this time of the preseason because it's overused, but it's also true. It's on paper. And whether you're talking about the Chargers or you're talking about the Eagles, you really don't know what we're going to get at this point in the season in week 9. Again, wherever the Eagles are going to be standing by that point in time, even for themselves, say what you want about the NFC East. Yeah, they sucked last year as far as just overall as a division, but they play each other tough. So who knows where Philly's going to be.
But they got Devonta Smith.
You went out and you got some weapons for your young quarterback. You got one of my favorite offensive linemen in this last draft class in Landon Dickerson.
Mm-hmm.
Zach McPherson's a great addition to their secondary unit as well. And I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't want to say it's a goofy matchup. It's something on paper that when you look at it, when you look at both squads and when you really measure the quarterback as the X factor, Justin Herbert should be head and shoulders be able to carry this team over the Eagles in this matchup. But who knows? Who knows?
No.
Stranger things have happened.
They did get Kenneth Gainwell, which that was a gold mine jackpot of a pick in the draft, the running back. I'm telling you, I think that's going to be a very entertaining matchup, one that I'm not sleeping on because that team's going to have a ton of athletes. And I think that's what scares me most, are teams that have athletes against the Chargers, because one stupid mistake, they're gone for 70. Now, speaking of athletes, Jake, our week 10 matchup at home against Minnesota, they went and kind of swapped out offensive linemen in free agency and the draft. They got rid of Riley Reif. They added some in the draft. They're getting their running back. Kirk Cousins at the helm. Harrison Smith in the back end.
Supreme athlete, Kirk Cousins.
Arguably,
I like it, and he likes it.
Yep, arguably the second best rookie from last year in Justin Jefferson. This is going to be a fun one, too. I think Justin Jefferson is going to be coming to this, and this team is going to be coming trying to give Justin Jefferson 1 billion catches to try to make a statement for what he did not get last year.
The Twitter war that took place, well, it's brutal. I don't want to say necessarily a war because it wasn't bad. I think it was just like a very, let's call it an extreme disagreement, if we're going to say so. So many Vikings fans were pounding the table for Justin Jefferson to win the Rookie of the Year last year. And ultimately, we all know who it went to, and ended up going to Justin Herbert. Unfortunately,
deservedly so.
Hey, I understand, deservedly so, and that's just the way that, unfortunately, the hierarchy in the NFL works. The quarterback is always going to rule whenever it comes to certain awards like this, even though Justin Jefferson put up an absolutely bonkers 2020 season, and he deserves as much notoriety as he could possibly get. And when you talk about what they did in their draft, some interesting picks, some guys that we talked about a lot on this show. Obviously, Christian Darrisaw, we'll see how he gets plugged in at the tackle position there. I'd be interested to see how Staley plans on attacking him. You go a little bit further, they added another defensive weapon in Chaz Surratt to man their defense. Then you have Wyatt Davis, who was I was actually surprised that he was still around in the third round. I thought that he would for sure been off the board by the second. They loaded up a lot on the defense, came back around in with the other third round pick that they ended up trading with the Ravens for, and bought Patrick Jones, one of my favorite edge rushers that was in this class. And yeah, so this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Again, Minnesota is Minnesota. Defensively, they can play you tough, but like you said, Dan, there's some big time returns from the running attack. I won't get into it now because we're too early, but I'll say this. I will say, and this is, if there's one thing about this Chargers team that does scare me a little bit going into this next season, it is the uncertainty of the middle of the defensive line. Justin Jones, Linval Joseph, and now you're shifting Jerry Tillery on the inside.
We just signed one.
Yes, I mean, I'm totally blanking on his name right now.
Still here somehow.
Christian Covington.
Covington, and that's
Don't
the
worry,
name.
Dan. I got it. Don't
Thank
worry.
you. I appreciate you.
Which is the Damon Square replacement, basically, because Christian Covington is known more for his rush defense. But I'll tell you what, if I was a head coach against the Chargers, I would be attacking first with my run game. I would. Jerry Tillery, what made him his bread and butter in college at Notre Dame was all about his pass rushing skills. He wasn't the worst at rush defense, but that was what got him notoriety. I don't know how he's going to be when you kick him inside now and make him more responsible at stopping the run. Linville Joseph did okay. It wasn't the best. Justin Jones, I'm still waiting. Can you stay healthy? I'm still waiting. So this to me sounds like a game where Cook could cook, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah. And again, like the Vikings came back and they're having a bunch of guys come back that were hurt last year. They went and got Patrick Peterson. Xavier Woods is now on their team. What's his name? Alexander. Mackenzie Alexander also on their team as well. They're getting back. I forget who it was. They had a few stars that were also hurt last year that are going to be back healthy. This defense is no joke. This is going to be a tough matchup, but a fun one at home. That's going to be a good one for Chargers fans to watch. Week 11, Jake. This is already kind of crazy, but then we get a prime time matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers at SoFi. Talk about a hype city. SoFi is going to be crazy. And the last time we saw Pittsburgh, I believe, was when all those terrible towels flooded our stadium. You couldn't even see Chargers fans. I've got a feeling it's going to be a little bit different this come around.
It could be a little bit different. I don't think that much different. Steelers fans travel better, arguably, than any other fan base in the league. So you know that you're going to have a healthy dose of terrible towels and Pittsburgh Steelers fans out there. Do you think Ben Roethlisberger's got something to prove in 2021? It may be his last hurrah. You think he's going to leave it all on the table? They revamped their running game, that's for sure.
True.
Their defense is still going to be their defense.
I don't know.
Historically, the Chargers have struggled with Pittsburgh.
TJ Watt coming to town.
You think that'll be a nice test for a first-round rookie and Rashawn Slater?
You know, that's the part that is I'm still not in that mode. I'm still thinking of last season with our offensive line that was just Swiss cheese. To where, like, as soon as I see TJ Watt, I'm like, oh, crap.
Look, Sam Tevi's not there anymore. God willing, Trey Pipkins won't be there come this Week 11 matchup.
5:20, prime time. This one is going to be a fun one. And by this point, I mean, the Chargers could easily be, they could go anywhere from, 5-4, 5-5, 6-4, something like that, going into this game. Then moving on from Week 11, Jake, after the primetime matchup against the Pittsburgh Terrible Towels and the Steelers, we get to go up against some friends of ours in the Denver Broncos at Mile High.
Denver Broncos at Mile High is never easy. Much like the Chiefs, they're extremely hard to beat in Mile High. And Denver was another one of these teams that had a very sneaky good offseason, both in free agency and the draft. They go out. I mean, essentially you get back Von Miller because you didn't have him at all last season. I think some people forget about that. Then you go out and you sign the likes of Kyle Fuller. I know that killed a lot of people who were hoping to get him. I'm missing the first name, but Darby you add to your secondary. And if that wasn't good enough for you in the first round of the draft, you circle back around with the 9th overall and you select Patrick Surtain, which to some was actually a surprise. I figured that they would have gone Micaiah Parsons at number 9 the entire way through, but that didn't end up happening. All right, and much like I said for the New England game, Drew Lock to me should still get the first crack at this quarterback
Drew
scenario.
freaking Lock.
And the interesting part about this is that both quarterbacks for the Broncos right now, which one's going to be backing up who, I have no idea, but both of them beat the Chargers last year. Teddy Bridgewater beat us when he was in Carolina. Drew Lock had one of the best games of the season last year for himself when he brought the Denver Broncos back in an amazing comeback effort to beat the Chargers on the last play of the game in 2020. So they know they could do something. And personally, Denver should have swept the Chargers if Jerry Jeudy didn't all of a sudden forget how to catch a football. The Chargers should have been swept by the Denver Broncos. Let's be real for a second. And so let's talk about that offense. You still have the likes of Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, now along with Javonte Williams, who you took with your second round pick to pair him with Melvin Gordon in the rushing attack. The quarterback, you kind of alluded to this with Baker Mayfield as far as being the player 100%. That holds them back. The quarterback is really what holds the Denver Broncos back in their offense.
I still don't know why they decided not to go with Justin Fields in that draft. I don't know how they can look at Justin Fields and Drew Lock and think that Drew Lock had the higher ceiling. But
I could think of about 7 different quarterbacks that have been proven since Peyton Manning was on this team about why you don't go quarterback. But that's just me.
I'm going to hold my tongue.
It's nothing against Justin Fields. It's against Elway's lack of being able to draft a quarterback. Now, to Elway's
but Drew Lock is one of them.
I understand that. And Justin Fields was my number 2 guy as far as quarterbacks goes for this draft. So I'm fully in agreement with you, Dan. Should they have done it? Probably, because if you end up doing very well this year, who knows what kind of position you're going to be for 2022 to draft a quarterback if you end up moving on from Drew Lock. But that's neither here nor there. Division matchup. How about this for a storyline, Dan? What was one of the things that Brandon Staley said to a certain third-round pick of why he drafted him? Because he's watching all these guys that he's torching in the SEC. You don't think that Brandon Staley is going to have a game plan already set in motion for third-round pick Josh Palmer to say, hey, see that guy on that defense? You're familiar with Patrick Surtain, right?
Scored out of mud.
Go out and show me what you did last year.
I like
Go out and show me. I would love to see that matchup.
Give it to me. Now, we talk about quarterbacks that are selected and Peyton Manning not able to select a good one. Well, you know who did select a good one is our Week 13 matchup. Cincinnati got themselves a franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow. Unfortunately, last year they did not get themselves an offensive line, and he was out for most of the season. Going up against Joe Burrow, completely revamped wide receiving core. They added some help on their offensive line. They got stud Jamar Chase.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for that.
Bengals.
We will take
forever indebted to you for that.
Forever and ever and ever. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, for the first time, head-to-head in Cincinnati. I'm telling you, this is one of the more fun seasons I can remember of matchups. Just back to back to back to back to back.
If there's one thing that I can guarantee for this year, guarantee right now, I don't need to figure this out as it gets closer to the regular season come September. This will be a better game than the barn burner 16-13 week 1 matchup between these two teams that happened last year.
We shouldn't have even won. We got so lucky. That's brutal.
Somebody just hit, the Buffalo Wild Wings button and
zoink.
Yep. That's what happens.
So after we get to go up against Joey Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Hold on. You're not going to talk about this offense a little bit, talk about a little bit of difficulty here. I mean, again, when we played Joe Burrow in week 1, he wasn't really even Joe Burrow that we got to see last year before he went down with an injury. I mean, let's be fair. And now you take Jamar Chase and you throw him in with the likes of Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. I mean, thank the gods that they took Jamar Chase, but this has to be your penance for it, that you have to go up against it in 2021.
Jamar Chase versus Asante Samuel Jr. I am here for that. That is going to be so good. That's going to be good.
That'll be a matchup to watch.
I cannot wait for that.
Can't wait for that. Mm-hmm.
Woo! Okay, Jake, we are on the home stretch. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we will finish up the last of our 5 games of the 2021 season, including a primetime matchup that may include, arguably, Jake, I could say maybe the game of the year in the entire NFL. We'll talk about it when we come back on Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome back to Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dale Wolkenstein here with you from the LA Football Network. We have 5 games remaining that we are breaking down in this 2021 schedule release day. But before we jump into these, if you have not seen it on Twitter, it's a very special, emotional story that's going on right now with one of our own Bolt family that Dan and I would be remiss if we did not mention. Dan, take it away, sir.
Yeah, Tayler, who friend of the show, you might know him as AZ Bolt Gang. He's called in show many times. We've had some fun on the show previously. Unfortunately, has had kind of a tragic event for their family, and their house essentially burned down to the ground, and only a few things remained. One of which was some Chargers memorabilia. They had a Derwin James jersey, and I mean, I couldn't even imagine what that's like for him and his wife and their little girl. And he posted a video about it, just randomly kind of showing the after markings of what happened. And, Bolt fam, as amazing as you all are, has taken upon ourselves to kind of bring each other up. And so Jen Mills, one of the Chargers greats within the fan base and the community, has started a GoFundMe for him. We'll put the link to it in the description. Jay, we have seen so much support from the likes of Pat McAfee, from Sean Merriman, from Mike Williams, and from so many donors within the Bolt fam specifically. I think they're up to like 140 donations. They're over $9,000 already. And I think they're going to get way more than that, and they deserve it. He and his family are going through a ton right now. And if there's anybody out there that's able to support or to share their story, the link will be in our description. Please go out and share, donate if you can. His daughter has gone through some complications with health. It really is kind of a bittersweet. I mean, it's really sad and tragic, but they have taken it in stride. They have been fantastic. Tayler, if you're out there, we're thinking of you. We're praying for you. We're sorry for all that you've gone through, but the way that you've handled this and kind of the resiliency that you're showing for you and your family, I think is fantastic. And so anything we do to help you, from Chargers Unleashed to you and your family, we're here for you. Much appreciated. And we're here for you, man.
Definitely. Beautifully said, Dan. And again, just from me personally, prayers out to AZ Bolt Gang, Tayler. As Dan said, we are thinking about you during this tough time, and we hope that you and your family get back on your feet very quickly. So continuing with the last 5 games of the 2021 schedule that was just released earlier today. Dan, take us on to the next matchup, please.
Next matchup, going against the G-Men in New York. Giants, Week 14 at home. No idea what that's going to look like. Daniel Jones, couldn't tell you.
Danny Dimes,
maybe,
Danny Nichols.
Maybe he'll give us a few turnovers because that's what he does best.
Danny Penny.
Sure. We finally get to see that stud running back. My goodness, he was out all last season. Now his name is mistaken me. I can't even think of it.
Come on, dude. Saquon Barkley.
There
man.
we
Where's
go.
Your head at? Do you need a slap and tickle? Do you need something to?
No. I tried to get his name out of my memory because I drafted him in I think 2 of my fantasy drafts last year, only to watch my team crumble immediately.
So you finished last. That's for sure.
Yep, definitely.
Understood. You know what's so crazy about this, and I didn't realize it before. I probably should have realized it, maybe around week 11. But Dan, you kind of alluded to it where you're talking about just week after week after week, just great matchups here. You go through this schedule that we're at thus far, and with the exception of a few games, the offensive matchups here against both the Chargers and whoever their opponent's going to be on that week are just ridiculous. And even for the likes of the Giants, talk about a team which, again, revamped their offense in the offseason. So not only do you get Saquon Barkley back, but now you've gone out and you've done free agent additions of Kyle Rudolph, of John Ross, of their big wide receiver signing in Kenny Golladay, who they went all in for. You don't think that Daniel Jones is going to be happy coming back to seeing some of these weapons on offense?
More than he's had his entire career, that's for sure.
Just saying. I mean, I know what it says on paper, and I know what history says, and I know what the Giants were last year in the NFC least, and as horrid as that division was. But if both teams are healthy coming into, healthy-ish, coming into this Week 14 matchup, I mean, it's way too early for me to even be throwing out any bold predictions right now, and I won't. But this it has the potential to be a pretty high-scoring game.
Yeah, and Jake, you're forgetting. I mean, they got Adoree Jackson in free agency, and then their draft was insane. I got to go up against Kadarius Toney this week, which is going to be interesting.
You like that?
Yep, Azeez Ojulari, who they picked up in number 50 in the draft, which is insane. Your boy Ellerson Smith in round 4. I mean, they got considerably better this year in free agency and the draft. There's no argument there. They're a much better team.
I might hold it personal against the Giants this year, considering the fact that they took Ellerson Smith one pick before the Chargers were on the clock. But Dan, you may take it personal. How upset would you be hypothetically if
don't say his name. Do not say his name.
If player X,
yep,
who just might also be called Kadarius Toney, took one back to the house on special teams against us?
The question was, how upset will I be?
How upset would you be?
I will be very upset, Jake. I will need many Brewery X libations to get me through that night.
Dan, he was a first-round pick.
I know he's a first-round pick,
saying.
not by, but okay, first-round pick by the Giants, and everyone thought it was weird.
You would never have figured that he was going to go 21 or what was it, 20 overall.
Yep.
Gotta love it. Dan Wolkenstein.
I'm letting that one go because, Jake, we got to talk about the best matchup of the entire 2021 season for the Chargers. Prime time against catch-up man himself, Patrick Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs in SoFi. Prime time.
So we already talked about we already know what this matchup's going to be like. We know the players on both sides of the ball here. Let's take a different approach. By week 15, and this is where I want you to put your optimistic Dan hat on, albeit it may be misguided, it may be a little bit too far-fetched. You're, how would I say this? Not Nostradamus, but I guess Danadamus, Wolkenstein-damus, however you want to call it.
Yep.
Danstradamus hat on. Where will both teams be sitting record-wise? Who will be leading the division by the time Week 15 comes around?
Well, I'm going to go chalk here. I think Chiefs will be leading the division, but I think the Chargers.
Good answer.
I think the Chargers are going to be second place on their heels. Week 15, so that means we probably are going to somewhere along the lines of like 9-5 for the Chargers. Hopefully, maybe 9-6. Or sorry, maybe not 9-5 or 8-6. I'm hoping my optimistic hat that currently is old school Chargers. I'm hoping that we can be in the hunt, because if we are in the hunt and we are healthy, I cannot think of a bigger home game in primetime than against the Kansas City Chiefs at SoFi, year one, in a year in which you are going to be having a Super Bowl in SoFi, battling playoff positions on the line. I mean, you name it. I'm going to be there at that game, and I hope that this is going to be the game of the year. And I hope that everybody's healthy.
3 out of the last 4 games that you have are against divisional opponents, and this one is probably the most important. I'll go with you here. I won't be optimistic, Dan. I'll be who I've always been, pessimistic, Jake. It's not overly pessimistic. Again, we're still in May. We're not in September yet. But I will still say that the Chiefs will still have control of the division. Chargers should be nipping at their heels. I'll say at least 2 games back in the AFC West at this point of the year. And even that to me is sounding optimistic in saying so.
2 games back? Is that what you said?
2 games back, which is about as much optimism as you're going to get from me on this show. If you think that's pessimism, if you haven't watched this show before, just wait until we get in the regular season. My God.
Don't do this to them, Jake.
My God. It's, my wife always says, it's like, honey, you're not really like a true fan. Like, I hear the way you talk about this team. It's like, but I am.
You are.
I will criticize bad play and bad coaching, and that's deserving. I would think that anybody would do that. So
you call it like you see it.
I call it the way I see it, and I just have a certain way of delivering it that I think is justified.
Fair.
Dan, talk about let's call it possibly awkward matchup.
Awkward
for Week 16. The Houston Texans, who arguably could end up with the worst record in the league next year.
Talk about turmoil. Good Lord.
Turmoil with everything that has taken place in the offseason with Deshaun Watson. Went out and signed a quarterback. And not their draft pick, but
signed puncture anybody's bubble.
Oh. God, you call me pessimistic. Look at you coming at him with the lung shots, for crying out loud. Anyways, Tyrod Taylor. Jesus, Dan. Tyrod Taylor, is he the starting quarterback of the Houston Texans come Week 16?
I think so. I think he was brought in this year to just get them through the year.
I tweeted this out because I when I saw the schedule released, and I just immediately thought of in Blades of Glory when Will Ferrell is trying to make nice with Jimmy McElroy again, Chaz Michaels, and he keeps calling him and just apologizing. And just that one scene where he's called him for like the umpteenth time and just said like, "Hey, yikes, it's me."
About that. Sorry. Coming to play a little awkward moment here in week 16. Jeez. No, seriously. From a fan's perspective, it's like, oh yeah, the former starting quarterback that only got a chance to play one game last year due to an unfortunate medical doctor issue, whatever you want to call it. It was just downright horrible. And that gave way to the best rookie season that we've ever seen from a quarterback in the NFL. Dan, what do you have to say about this matchup? I mean, this is one of those like trap games that I am just dreading. The Chargers, healthy, should roll this game. No problem. They do not have a good roster. They had arguably no picks this past year. They got a quarterback that should not be starting in the NFL. Brevin Jordan, I think, was their best player that they drafted, and he was in the, 4th round, I believe. They'll be lucky to win 4 games this year. And if one of those is against us, I'm going to be pissed. I'm just going to be
all right. Let's take it the other side. Let's say Tyrod Tyrod Taylor is the backup. And somehow, through all of the
Davis Mills
ashes, no, come on now. As Rich Eisen said when that draft pick was done, what? What is going on?
All of this is on the premise of Deshaun Watson not playing on this team this year.
Correct. So chances that Deshaun Watson plays a single game for the Houston Texans this year?
11%.
I'm surprised you went that high.
Yeah, I was going to go lower, but I was trying to be a little optimist, I guess.
So you think that Tyrod Taylor will be the starter of the Houston Texans come week 1 and for the duration of the season?
Yep. Who else are they going to have?
That's fair.
There's no way. Yeah, no, I don't know. But again, this seems like a trap game coming off of a high Kansas City, coming up right on the heels of a game that we're going to be talking about. This is one of those perfect situations where the Chargers can just crap the bed. I hope they don't do it.
Hey, we've seen him do it plenty of times. I would think that this would not. I thought that they were going to do it against Jacksonville last year. I thought that they were even going to do it against the Jets last year. Thankfully, they proved me wrong on both of those accounts. Came close, but they didn't do it.
They tried.
So I don't see any way. If we were to say right now, if there's one game that you should chalk up 100% as a win, that this would be it.
Agreed. I agree. Week 17 at home against the Broncos. Drew freaking Lock. If you do this to me again, Drew, I will never hear the end of it. Brandon Staley, if you let Drew Lock roast us the way that he did for a quarter and a half last year and still win the game, I'm going to shed so many tears.
All right, I guess if this is a fair time to ask this question. I think that Drew Lock should get the first crack at the starting gig this year, even though you brought in Teddy Bridgewater.
I agree.
I'm not going to make any type of bold predictions on what Denver's record is going to be by the time Week 17 rolls around. Is Drew Lock still the quarterback of the still the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos come Week 17?
I'm going to be a Chargers homer. No way, sir. He is going to be benched by Teddy Bridgewater. He is out of Denver. He is out of here. And Denver is looking for a quarterback, and they are pissed off they'd pass on Justin Fields.
So that's why. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
So you're holding it more against them because your love for Justin Fields, that you think that he is not going to be the starter come Week 17.
As a Chargers fan and covering this team, I am very happy they did not get Justin Fields. I'll put it that way. Very happy.
I think he will be, because just taking a quick overview of the Broncos' schedule this year, their schedule is not that tough. They get the likes of the Jaguars, the Jets. You get the Lions in there. Who knows how they might be biting kneecaps over there. I think that they'll still be in a healthy enough position. And to be perfectly honest, I think if Elway is set on whether or not he's going to move forward with Drew Lock or not, give him the full year. Barring any potential injuries, give him the full year to see what you got. I still think he's going to be the quarterback come Week 17. And yeah, he's come back on us once. Wasn't able to do it a second time, but I honestly think that this will be a much different story, but don't knock the weapons that the Broncos have.
Oh,
do not do it. Do not do it.
Again, it's all going to fall on the shoulders of that quarterback. If their quarterback play is, honestly, if they have an average quarterback play, that team's going to be just fine. That roster is nasty.
If I was to think of a better final week of the season, and again, we're talking about Week 18 here. This is the first time this is ever happening where we're talking about a 17-week regular season schedule. You play one less preseason game. If there was any way that I would want to end the season, and let's just say that worst case scenario, that the Chargers aren't going to the playoffs this year. this would be the place that I would want to end it. You say, "Oh,
or
dude,
if they are, what if Vegas and the Chiefs all vying for playoff spots?
Let's just say this: if they are making the playoffs, then this might actually scare me for where they're ending the regular season, because I know that if I was not going to be making the playoffs and I wanted something to cheer me up after a long 17-game season, the first thing I'd say is, let's go to Vegas. Let's do it. I mean, you end the season in Las Vegas, and you have to play a football game. So, Dan, what do you think about this?
I mean, this is going to be a good one. I'm hoping we're in the hunt. I'm hoping this is a good one. I don't want to get into any of the who's going to win
particulars.
No, I'm not getting into the particulars. But we get to go into the Raiders Stadium, the brand new one over there too. Looks kind of like a toilet, but it's also kind of cool.
Dude, it looks like the Death Star. If you haven't driven by it yet, it actually looks pretty damn awesome from the freeway.
I'm talking the overview. If you look at it from like the top, kind of looks like a toilet. Have you seen this?
No, dude. I see it from the street. I see it from the freeway. I don't look at those aerial shots.
You don't take helicopters over it?
Regardless, it looks awesome.
Fine. Whose team are you on, Jake? No, I'm hoping that this game means something to one of the teams. To your point, whether the Chargers or the Raiders are out of it, I hope the other team's in it. This is going to be a fun one. New stadiums.
Yeah, that's about the best thing that you could probably say about it. That you hope that it's relevant for the Chargers to a win and you're in type of scenario. Let's call it that.
Yep. So that is the 2021 season. And if you look at these matchups, I mean, we could just go through these real quick. Week 1 at Washington. Week 2, Dallas. Week 3, Kansas City. Then the Raiders and the Browns and the Ravens and New England. Then Philly, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Denver, Cincy, Giants, Kansas City again, Houston, Denver again, and the Raiders. This is a season that is going to be chock full of storylines. And I honestly don't remember the last time I've seen a season with this many matchups that are just gushing juicy.
Yeah.
I'm hyped.
This, with the exception of one game, this may be, if you are a gambling man, whatever line you see on the Chargers, you may want to pound the over. Just a thought.
On anything.
Just a thought. Given some of these offensive matchups that you have in a lot of these games, this may be the season to do it.
Mm-hmm. Jake, we actually know who the Chargers are playing.
Feels good.
When they're playing, we get to actually talk about matchups. This is good. We went a little long today, but I don't care. We needed it.
What about it?
Yeah, who cares?
I mean, yeah, it's subject to the listeners that they shouldn't have to listen to us longer than 45 minutes. But hey, we're talking football here. Sometimes we get carried away.
Yep. And we get to talk about teams that we're playing. How could you not be excited for this? Guys, continue to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, on YouTube. Subscribe. Leave us a review. Thank you so much for listening to us. This is going to be a fun ride. Quick little tease. We may have a special guest coming up this week. You might want to take a quick peek later. But in the meantime, we will see you on the next episode of Chargers Unleashed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you on the flip side.